Hey everybody, this is Matt. I'm making a new Heroclix video, and this video is going to be a Civil War storyline organized play final review. So for this review, it's basically I'm going to be breaking down this event into good ideas that didn't work out, and bad ideas. So let's start out with the good ideas. And right off the bat, the set was so easy to collect. You know, one of my friends, by like the second month was over, already had the full set, and it's hard not to say it's a good thing because with 15 commons, 13 uncommons, 8 rares, 5 super rares, but no chases and no primes, it's a huge difference than what like War Light had with 8 different chases split between 2 waves of boosters. I mean, even with the extra 2 months for War Light, it was still so much harder to collect in a set I'm still collecting, you know? And while I wish 2 of the Young Avengers hadn't been super rares because I love Young Avengers and it's been almost 10 years since those characters had another release, you know, the set was so easy to collect that I had friends giving me stuff left and right from their extras and stuff that I was able to get a lot of what I wanted really easily. Another really good thing about the Civil War event, it was very easy to make teams. You know, as a judge, you know, I watched as people really quickly put together 300-point teams, you know, whether it was 280-point pieces and 270-point pieces, boom, 300 points, you know, and it set really allowed that to happen with very few 60 and 90-point pieces. People just had I very rarely had anybody had an issue making a team that they wanted to make, and very rarely were players not able to make a team using anti-registration or pro-registration pieces, you know, and because they all had those keywords, almost everybody had theme teams. So that was very, very nice. It's a very easy set to make teams out of. Another really good thing, you know, the grand prizes, and I'll say it's kind of a trade-off here. You know, I'll say later on in the video that, you know, without the big piece to be like, whoa, that's the grand prize, you know, it did lower the enthusiasm a little bit. But I will say, from a judge who wants to spread the love to all the players as much as possible, these grand prizes were awesome. You know, we got so many of them to give out. Everybody was able to get something, you know. At the venue that I used to go to, we would have gotten 4 sets of them. So that's 36 pieces to give out, you know, for our 8 to 10 players. That's plenty to go around and make everyone happy that they got something they wanted, which can't always be said about grand prizes. A lot of time you get 2 to 3 grand prizes per event, and a lot of people go away disappointed that they didn't get one, you know, like a Necron or a Thanos on his throne. So from a judge's standpoint, from a non-super competitive standpoint, I'd much rather spread the love and give everyone something decent than only give 1 or 2 people something really, really nice. So I really did like that about the Civil War. So some of these are good ideas that didn't really work out. So the first one is like factions. You know, I like factions and storyline organized play events. You know, I liked it during No Man's Land when there was so many different factions and stuff. I liked it during Avengers vs. X-Men when there was the 2 different factions. But whoever designed the set didn't really try to balance the 2 factions of pieces within the set, you know? And this is most noticeable with like pro registration pieces like the Thunderbolts that have Justice like lightning traits. There's no real equivalent on the anti-registration side. There's no equivalent. There's nothing whatsoever, you know? Also, the pro registration pieces are more naturally, you know, range pieces, and the game naturally favors range pieces. So, you know, when pro registration have more pieces with range and more pieces with running shot, it means they get a hit first and have a greater chance of winning fights before they even begin. So in that aspect, I really felt like a lot of it was not balanced. You know, perhaps it's because we started allowing a percentage of constructed play after the first month. You know, and players gravitated towards the rares and the super rares of each faction, which are the strongest ones. You know. But it was obvious, like when all but one of the anti-registration players changed sides to pro-registration after like 1 or 2 events, that like the factions were just not imbalanced, and you know, and we noticed that, and we could tell, and I think a lot of people could tell that they just weren't balanced, you know, and that really took away from the whole faction thing, because then it really became not what faction do you want to support, it's really what faction you have to support in order to win games. you know? So another thing it was a good idea but just didn't work out was bounty cards. It was an interesting idea that would help balance the scales between the two factions, which is good. It's something it really needed. But WizKids messed up because they only put like 40% of each faction's characters on the bounty cards. That means like 60% of the time. Okay, maybe this math isn't the perfect right, but a lot of the time you sit across from an opposite faction and they wouldn't have a single piece that corresponded to one of your bounty cards. Not only that, but for the most part, the pieces on the bounty cards were mostly commons, like Iron Man. But as my local venue started incorporating more constructed into the themes, and people started using more rares and super rares, almost nobody had a piece that was on a bounty card. None of the Thunderbolt pieces were on bounty cards, and that would have been priceless if they would have had bounty cards for the Thunderbolt pieces. I mean, maybe that would have allowed anti-registration to stay competitive then, but it just didn't happen. And after almost every single player changed to the sides of pro registration, there was no way any anti-registration bounty cards would be useful against them. Because you'd have pro versus pro. So what's the point of anti-cards, I mean, the cards just ended up being useless for almost the entire event series. They had no actual game text printed on them, so even when the event series is over, they're useless. They have no use whatsoever other than what you can come up with on your own for some fun theme, They just feel like they weren't very well thought out, So here are some bad things about Civil War. Things I just really did not like. And the first thing is no event poster, So not counting the set piece checklist that was put online that we've had for other sets in the past, every storyline organized play event in the last few years has sent stores an event poster that they could put up in their shop to draw interest to and say, hey, we're doing this event. Hey, get excited. Whenever I would take photos, we would always stand in front of the event poster. But this didn't happen for Civil War. Civil War, nothing in the store showed Civil War. I mean, at least WizKids could have done is sent the set piece checklist to stores to put up. They didn't send anything to stores to put up. Like even on the website, it shows like a cardboard cutout advertisement, and I've collected some of those. I don't think stores got those. Or at least mine didn't get that. So literally the store had nothing in the store to decorate to advertise, hey, we're doing the Civil War event series. And that's just not good. That's just not good. So another thing that didn't happen for Civil War, there was no participation prizes. For past storyline organized play events, I'm going to probably say that about 1,000,000 times, we've had participation prizes, usually in the form of a resource to collect or something, where each month we'd get another piece for it. Heck, even in War of Light, we had additional participation prizes with the Green Lantern LE pieces to collect each month. So, that was a really good event series, Participation prizes help reward players of all skill levels and help spread the love some, because with Civil War, unless you got to the finals of each round, at least, for constructed play and stuff, the only thing you're walking away with is your booster that you purchased, because there was nothing else. I mean, you could give out the bounty cards, but they had no actual game effect on them. So what's the point of that, And that can lower excitement for the event overall, It really can. So another really bad idea, and it kind of ties into the second one, random prizes. So out of 22 Civil War brick blind prize packs we opened, because we got in 2 cases every single month and we weren't able to do the last month, not a single Sentry LE piece was pulled. Not a single one. A zero. Nunca. I'm not even sure what the odds are on that, but it happened at my old venue. And it was disappointing every time we sit down and go, well, are we going to open a Sentry? Are we going to open a Sentry? But it's also disappointing for the players because there was one player who was a big fan of Sentry, who was a big fan of Superman, and thus Sentry is kind of like Superman. And if he wouldn't have come in first for that event, and finally the Sentry was pulled, that'd be the only Sentry we'd pull the entire time, and he didn't get his hands on it, he'd be super disappointed, By the time we neared the final month, people were so pessimistic about what we get in the last few blind packs, everyone assumed there'd just be another Iron Man and Captain America, because nobody wanted them whatsoever, knowing we'd get them again in the grand prizes, which wasn't a good idea. That's not a point, I'm just going to say that's not a good idea. I think a better idea would have been to have sealed cases come included with a set of the 6 different LE pieces. So like at the moment they had two random LEs in each brick. Well, this would just bump each one up one. So instead of having 2 randoms in each brick, you'd have 3 non-randoms in each brick. So you're guaranteed one of each of the LE pieces to be awarded every single month. And players don't have to worry, oh, is a sentry going to be pulled? Is a sentry going to be pulled? Or worry like, am I going to have another chance for a night nurse? I really want that night nurse. And players need those extra opportunities for specific pieces, and knowing they have a 100% chance to have another shot at them would make the reason to attend the event worthwhile. But when it's random, it's like, well, we might not even pull that thing. I don't even know if I want to spend the money on it. And I felt like near the end of the event, people's interest in the event overall was definitely lessened to the point where, people didn't even want to do the battle royales anymore. And that jumps into the last point. Battle royales were just a bad idea from the second they were suggested. They just don't work for local venues with small numbers of players. I mean, what do you do when there's 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11 people show up? According to WizKids, you're supposed to sit them down in a corner and say, "Oh, you don't get to play for the next hour." It just doesn't work. It's not a good idea for local venues, and it was the main reason we ended up just doing battle royales as a side event at my local venue instead of the main event. The players much more enjoyed the standard sealed constructed events because that's where they were used to. And even if we had an odd player out, they could have a bye for a round. It meant 90% of the players were getting to play instead of 50% of the players were getting to play. And I feel like so much of the event was designed around battle royales that it really hurt regular sealed constructed play with the sets. I talk about how my local venue added in sealed and constructed play with the sets and how we had a whole bunch of issues, and it's because those pieces were not meant for sealed constructed play. They were meant for battle royales where players would have no control over what pieces they were pulling. But once players had control over what pieces they were pulling, it totally broke the system. Bounty cards work better in a sealed environment where players would be forced to play common card pieces. Faction balance was better, when people couldn't run 4 rares and super rares. But a lot of people just didn't like the battle royales, because they hate not keeping what they pull, or they just aren't super competitive and they know they have little chance of winning the LE. That's me right there, or the super rare in the prize pile. When there isn't enough players that want to pay to play in a battle royale, you just can't run the battle royale. If you don't got the 4 players, if only 3 people are interested, well, I mean the way the battle royales are designed, so you pass the booster, it just doesn't work with 3 people. you know? So it just was not a good idea. Just a bad idea. They are fantastic for larger events where there's a lot of people. When there's 30 people there and people are signing up left and right for battle royales, fantastic. But for local events, these were bad ideas. So my final thoughts on the Civil War storyline organized play event. Civil War as an event, in my honest opinion, will be forgotten sooner than later. Most of the LE pieces from the set don't have decent keywords. Black Panther doesn't have Avengers or Fantastic Four. Iron Man, Captain America doesn't have Avengers. I mean, from someone who only plays theme teams, I just don't want any of them, other than maybe Namor for Atlantis theme team. And only a select few of them will actually see any competitive play. I'm looking at maybe Night Nurse for some competitive play, maybe. And with no big grand prize figure, and this is where I kind of hinted at it at the beginning of the video, it means people won't have a big memory of the event in their mind forever. When I think back of War of Light, I see that big freaking Necron piece. When I think back to AVX, I see the Dark Phoenix Cyclops and the Phoenix Buster Iron Man pieces. But for Civil War, I think back and I'm not sure what I see. I see a set that was decently designed, but the prizes were you know? And the event felt lazy on WizKid's part. I mean, I'm being perfectly straight with everybody here, okay? There was no event poster, no participation prizes, Basically useless bounty cards with no actual game information on them, shoehorning the entire event into a battle royale system, which doesn't work whatsoever for local venues with small numbers of players, while the set itself wasn't bad by any means and offers possible future meta pieces like Taskmaster. The rest of the set looked rushed and not very well thought out. And the only reason I say this is because almost every other storyline organized play event has been really fun. I loved Warlight. Warlight was my favorite set, favorite event series, bar none, best point in Heroclix life for me. I just don't think this event series was that fun or that very well designed. Finally, I also feel like 4 months is too short for a storyline organized play event. Now for Civil War, the way it was designed with the Battle Royale system, I don't think that could have lasted longer than 4 months. I think some people wanted it to be 3 months or maybe even 2 months because of the way it was designed. But for future events, like if they ever do Crisis on Infinite Earths, I would really like to see it be longer than 4 months. Whether that could be 6 months, or 5 months or something like that. I just wish there was longer because I kind of liked how the old system was where you had 6 months of a storyline organized play event, then you had 6 months off. Then you started back up afterwards. Now it's like you have 4 months of an event, then you have 2/3 of the year with nothing other than release events every now and then, once every 3 months. And that's it. And it kind of feels like there's just a lot of empty space there that I wish there was just an extra month or two for storyline organized play events. But for Civil War, I guess 4 months was appropriate, but I think for other events and future events, I'd like to see it be longer. So those were my thoughts on the Civil War storyline organized play event. It had some good ideas, like how easy the set was to collect, how easy the set was to make teams out of, and how the grand prizes spread the love throughout all the players. It had some good ideas that didn't work out, like the faction system, or the bounty cards that were just basically useless. And it had some really just bad ideas, like no event poster, no participation prizes, completely random LE prizes each month, and then the Battle Royale system was just not right for local venues. But, I think the event was fun. I think everyone had a little bit of fun. I'm definitely looking forward to the next event more, whatever it is. Hopefully it's a DC event after the last 2 Marvel events. But those were my thoughts, and I hope you enjoyed listening to them. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video and support the channel. I hope you have fun playing Heroclix in the future, and have a fantastic day, everybody. Bye-bye.